In the middle of the vast rice paddies, I stepped slowly, stepping on the moist soil after yesterday's rain. The fresh morning air swept my face, revitalizing the spirit amidst the noise of nature. In the distance, I saw my neighbor who was busy hoeing in the fertile land. It was obvious that he had been working since dawn, but his face was still bright, full of enthusiasm even though sweat had wet his face. I approached him with a big smile, and he raised his head, greeting me with the warm smile he always showed. "Ah, you came too," he said, his heavy voice sounding cheerful even though he was a little short of breath. His hands are still deftly holding the hoe, moving back and forth on the land that never gets tired. The scenery around us is so beautiful: green rice paddies, tall trees, and a bright blue sky that seems to be cheering. In the distance, some birds fly low over the water that pools at the edge of the rice fields. The gurgling sound of water flowing from the irrigation channel adds to the peacefulness of the atmosphere, as if nature itself is singing merrily. I stood beside him, watching the wet soil and the hoe moving back and forth, cutting rows of fertile soil. "Since morning, sir?" I asked with a grin. He nodded slowly. "Yes, it's been since this morning. But it's okay. This has become a habit." We laughed lightly, and I began to feel how peaceful the surroundings were. Along the paddy field, you can still hear the sound of birds and the sound of water from the irrigation channel that flows quietly. All of that makes the tiredness seem far from reach, erased by the fresh air and warm togetherness. We joked, talking about endless things, from the often unpredictable weather of late to old memories of our youth. Sometimes, he would tell stories about how he used to work late into the night in the rice fields, or how he had to struggle to take care of the crops when the dry season came. However, even though the stories are often hard and full of challenges, there is always laughter at the end of the story, as a sign that everything can be passed with an open heart. The moment felt so precious. The warmth of our laughter mingled with the fresh air that was slowly starting to heat up, and even though our bodies were starting to get tired, it felt like it all paid off with a pleasant togetherness. I could feel how his spirit was getting carried away by our laughter, and slowly his fatigue began to heal, replaced by a sense of lightness and happiness that was so natural. He kept on hoeing, and I joined in, though only occasionally picking up a small rock that got in the way of his hoe. He talked about various things. About the plants that were growing in abundance, about the sudden change in the weather, and about the peace he felt every time he was in the rice fields. In the midst of the hustle and bustle, our smiles and laughter seemed to create an atmosphere full of cheerfulness, as if time stopped running. The joy comes naturally, in every drop of sweat that falls, in every footstep that steps on the soft ground. Without having to say much, we share happiness in simple togetherness, a small moment that reminds us that sometimes, joy can be found in unexpected places, even in the midst of hard work full of effort. That day, even though we were working in the scorching heat, my heart felt light. The sincere laughter, the view of the green rice paddies, and the sound of nature mingling with our steps, all made the day so enjoyable. There is nothing happier than being able to feel the togetherness in the silence of such a warm nature.
Dadah.